So Xavi was appointed manager of Barcelona on the 6th of November 2021 after a disastrous start to the season with Barcelona at their lowest ebb. He came in and followed a fellow club legend, but Xavi has been able to live up to this legendary status that he's got, unlike Ronald Koeman, who could have been sacked a couple of times. It was insipid football, it was thoughtless football, and it was a club in disarray after losing someone like Lionel Messi. There were a couple of games where Ronald Koeman could have lost his job. There was the bleak 1-0 defeat away at Rayo Vallecano. Radamel Falcao, bless him, do you remember him? Scoring the winner there. And Barca had 69% possession and had one shot on target. There was the 1-1 draw with Granada, where they only actually even equalised in that game in the 90th minute, thanks to Araujo. And of course, that infamous 3-0 defeat at Benfica. Benfica actually had 4 big chances on the night, slicing through this Barcelona side. And even though it was the second match of that Champions League group stage, it almost spelled Europa League for them after that woeful, woeful performance. All in all, Ronald Koeman left a sour taste in the mouths of everyone at Barcelona. That sounds awful, doesn't it? But the recruitment was absolutely woeful. He was so combative and truculent with pretty much everyone at the club, and there was a huge reluctance to accept accountability for the failings of the team. All in all, Barcelona were in disarray. Enter Xavi Hernandez, stage right. A man who knows the club, but also knows football. And that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to have a look at some of the aspects, both on the pitch and off the pitch, in terms of how Xavi Hernandez has been able to make Barcelona great again. If you are new to the channel, please do consider hitting the subscribe button, and if by the end of this video you've enjoyed yourself, hit the like button as well. Let's do this. Building a relationship with the board. Now, Xavi has been instrumental in creating a mass overhaul of Barcelona, and it starts from the top. Xavi is well known for having a lovely demeanour about himself and being quite diplomatic when it comes to the people higher up at Barcelona, in particular Joan Laporta. That upward management is so important in football and something that Ronald Koeman just wasn't able to do. I mean, he's a polarising figure, as is Joan Laporta, and they would clash regularly, and it would come out in the public quite often. You've even seen that in recent weeks. 6 months after Ronald Koeman has been sacked by Barcelona, he's now speaking in the press again. And it's very clear that he felt marginalised by Joan Laporta. In a recent interview, he said this: "You won't see me at Camp Nou for a while. I can't do that yet. With this president, I can't pretend that nothing happened. They didn't give me the time they've given Xavi. It's painful for me. I wasn't Laporta's coach. I had that feeling from the first moment. There was no click after the election. That necessary support from above was lacking." What's different with Xavi is the fact that, yes, he holds this lovely rapport with the people higher up at the club, but he's also pushing really, really high standards, and he has a sort of persuasiveness to his recruitment, which we'll talk about in just a second. The fact that he's so demanding, though, is something that is not seen as a problem or a weakness. It's actually seen with a lot more compassion. You know, the likes of Aubameyang coming through, Torres coming through, Traore coming through, and still Xavi Hernandez wanting Morata and pretty much demanding him as well. Again, wasn't seen as him being difficult. It was him holding up high standards that Barcelona should be setting anyway. And again, the reason for that is because he's Laporta's guy, his manager. And when he's his manager, there's so much more compassion being shown to what he's doing. And that's a great starting point to allow yourself to push for those higher standards. And because there's this sort of manager's son complex with Laporta and Xavi, he lets a lot of things go, which for the media, who will quickly pick up on these things, it's a narrative that they're almost being blind to. Let's come back to that persuasive recruitment, because that is part of it as well. And again, I think you see this with other managers out there at the moment as well. Say someone like Steven Gerrard, that gravitas that someone like Xavi has allows deals to get through. And you've seen that with the players that have come through. Ferran Torres, Aubameyang, Adama Traore. Ferran Torres, of course, was very clear in terms of him wanting to leave Man City to go to Barcelona and being part of the project. Adama Traore apparently is losing 60 grand a week because he doesn't need to put that money up front in terms of the deal, because he wants to go and play with Xavi and Barcelona. And Aubameyang, they were able to get on a free. Now, that one, maybe that was just exploiting a moment, but the bottom line is that Barcelona have their pulling power back. Despite the financial might that they have, someone like Xavi allows these players to have that desire to go back to Barcelona. Recruitment, obviously crucial, but what about the tactical changes? There have been many. These are some average positions from Ronald Koeman's team in a game against Atletico Madrid earlier in the season. Now, this allegedly is a 4-3-3, but it looks like a bit of a mess to me, because the problem that Ronald Koeman had was his team was often a sort of mishmash of randomness. It lacked width. It also left the fullbacks exposed a lot of the time out wide, and also in this game in particular, you had wingers who were playing almost as inverted wingers. You had Xavi and Coutinho playing as inverted wingers, and it just looks like a bit of a mess to me. There's no structure here. There's no understanding of how you're wanting to play, how you're wanting to stretch the play, and how you're wanting to get into the wide areas in the final third to hurt the opposition. In that game, Barcelona had 71% possession. They had 2 shots on target. Yeah. This is the average positions from the 4-0 hammering of Real Madrid very recently. Now, if you guys haven't seen it, the fallout just a couple of days ago, how Barcelona destroyed Real Madrid. We talk about this game in particular in real depth. So go check out that video if you haven't seen it as of yet. We also talk about a lot of different clubs in the fallout each week. But in this game, what you can see from the difference between the average positions in the Atletico Madrid game and this team is night and day. So first things first, when you look at those 2 different average positions, the only 2 players that have a similar situation on the pitch, Busquets, Ter Stegen. Only those 2. And I've got to be honest, I think we pretty much know where Busquets and Ter Stegen are going to play when it comes to football matches. Busquets will always be in that centre circle, getting on the ball, dictating. And Ter Stegen's a goalkeeper. Insight at the highest level. What is different here is absolutely everyone else. And the first thing to talk about, and we do talk about this in the fallout a little bit, but in more detail here, we can talk about it because having that second deep playmaker as one of the fullbacks is something that's not revolutionising the game, but it's very, very interesting and very specific to Barcelona, I think, at this moment in time. And I'll show you a couple of reasons why that is. This team is so balanced and in sync, and it's visionary stuff from Xavi, despite having a lot of the same personnel. Yes, there's a few tweaks in there, and we'll get on to the role of Frenkie de Jong in all of this. We'll get on to the 2 8s and Pedri. We'll get on to what is kind of turning into a back 3, but we've got to start with Jordi Alba, because the thing that's so great about Jordi Alba is that when you think of a double pivot, often you talk about double pivots, but when you think of those 2, you think of a double pivot there. What's really interesting, but still retains the balance because of the other elements and personnel, is that Jordi Alba is playing as a playmaker. Sometimes Daniel Alves does the same on the right-hand side. But what you have here is Jordi Alba on the exact same plane laterally as Busquets, which gives him another option. Another great example to show you when we're talking about this is this pass map, again from that Real Madrid game. This is from Tema H. Have a look at his Twitter, @Famit_H. I'll put a link to him in the description. This demonstrates how Jordi Alba is used to fulfill this role. If you look at the size of the circle again, it demonstrates how often he is used in possession. The next thing I absolutely love about this Barcelona side, and something that Xavi's done, is be aggressive in the half spaces. Let's go back to those average positions, because Busquets, as that single pivot, will get targeted sometimes. They'll look to kind of prevent him. Yes, you've got Jordi Alba as that option. And yes, sometimes when Dani Alves has been playing, he's trotted into that central midfield position as well to be that other option to allow Busquets to do that as well. What you could see here is you would imagine maybe there's a little gap here. But with Frenkie de Jong as one of those 2 8s, you've made a subtle change here, Xavi, but done something really, really special, because once again, if you need another option for someone to drop deep, you can allow Frenkie de Jong to do that. And that's always been the talking point about Frenkie de Jong. It's been like, is he a 6? Is he an 8? Is he a 6? Is he an 8? Maybe he's a little bit of both. And that is what Xavi has done so brilliantly with him, is because he's got that energy, that ability to dribble, but that ability to get on the ball as well. And it's allowing him to flourish massively. So with the ball, which is what Barcelona generally have, you have got your 2 8s. You've got your Pedri and you've got Frenkie de Jong. But also, when you need someone to drop back in, you've got someone like that. But also, with that little shift of the double pivot in Jordi Alba and Busquets, you allow Pedri to retain that position, to be aggressive in this half space. because down that left-hand side, you then have someone like Ferran Torres, whose starting position is wide, but is able to make those diagonal runs. Which leads me on to my next point on how Barcelona have become great again, wide wingers. This marriage of good recruitment, but then a system that's so balanced, as I said earlier in the video, is really kind of beautiful to behold. And those wide wingers are a big part of that. As I said previously, that energy of being able to go forwards and backwards that you've seen with Frenkie de Jong, and you see him in terms of getting into the box, you know, that assist for Aubameyang in the Europa League recently on this right-hand side allows him to do a lot of work. But with those wide players, first of all, as I said, Ferran Torres will start from that wide position. But because Pedri is able to stay on that left-hand side, you've also got this double pivot on this left-hand side with Jordi Alba at times. And Jordi Alba working in this a bit more of a narrower position. It allows Ferran Torres to start in that wider position and then look to get involved, but also look to get himself into the box. And the reason he's able to do that is because of the balance on the right-hand side. You've got Frenkie de Jong doing all of that work, but you've also got someone like Araujo or Dani Alves who aren't out-and-out fullbacks who are going to look to bomb on like we see with a lot of fullbacks these days. But what you will see in terms of that marriage of recruitment, but also getting the best out of the players, is Ousmane Dembele and Adama Traore. They both share a very common trait, and that is the ability to beat a man one-on-one out wide. That need for an overload in the wide areas is just not needed, because if it's Traore or it's Ousmane Dembele going down that right-hand side, trying to get to the byline and get those crosses in, or beating a man and getting yourself into the box yourself, either way, this suits Adama Traore. It suits Ousmane Dembele, as you saw against Real Madrid. And what that does so brilliantly is it dovetails with that left-hand side that allows Frenkie de Jong to make that run if he wants to, because he's got that stamina. You've got Aubameyang, who we'll talk about in a second. But as I said, on that left-hand side, Ferran Torres can make those runs very cleverly, those diagonal runs to score goals. And the amount of goals that Barcelona are scoring from crosses this season, from getting to the byline or just getting crosses in by flooding the box from that left-hand side, again comes down to that beautiful balance that they have. Last but not least, let's talk about Aubameyang. What a signing he's been. I thought he'd hit the ground running, because the bottom line is he does have quality and he has an incredible ability to finish. But if you think of his time at Arsenal, he struggled to get involved in the build-up play. The great thing about Barcelona is that they don't need him to get involved, because they've got the likes of Pedri, the likes of Busquets, the likes of Frenkie de Jong, two wingers who want to get on the ball as well at times. He's not needed. But what he is needed to do is stretch the play, and you see that from his advanced position here. He's as high up as he can be, and he doesn't get involved when he doesn't have to. Doesn't get involved in the build-up. His role is purely being in the box and finishing chances, which is the best thing about him. He's so good in the final third. Sometimes he will get those assists, but that comes from being in that high average position and playing those little sideways passes more so than anything else. He isn't dropping deep, which allows him to get forward. But if you do put chances on a plate for him, Aubameyang has the style, the grace, the movement and the quality to score a lot of goals for this Barcelona side. And it also creates space, both in terms of the depth that he offers by being that advanced forward, but also with the width of the 5 players in each plane of the pitch to allow the width as much as possible. And he's always there waiting for that chance. So all in all, Xavi has rejuvenated Barcelona and made them great again, using some of the elements and tactical approach of the godfather Guardiola, but also utilising the transfer market very cutely in January. And we haven't even spoken about the exciting conveyor belt of talent that Barcelona has right now. Ansu Fati, of course, has struggled with injuries at times. Gavi, Nico, Pedri, who sooner or later is very likely to win a Ballon d'Or. But of course, he's going to need this Barcelona side to do some great things for that to happen, I would imagine, as well. But the future is much brighter than it was a few months ago. And Barcelona, it's one of those ones where, stay tuned. When the pressure is back on next season, it'll be interesting to see if this new controlled style continues to bear fruit. I think it's going to, because there is that lovely mix of control, but also excitement in how they play. Very fluid, but an incredible balance to them as well. Let me know what you think, guys. How do you feel about Barcelona? How far can they go? Is it one where at the moment the expectations are just that little bit lower and they're enjoying that freedom? Can they deal with the pressures of being Barcelona? And how impressed have you been by Xavi so far this season? Let me know in the comments below. If you are new to the channel, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. It would massively, massively help as we try and march towards 200k. Hit the like button as well, and I'll see you in the next one.